Go ahead, Sahajananda.
Yeah, that's it, Sahajananda. Very good. Thank you. I have a question which has a few questions in it. One is physical. I've hurt inside of my foot, like the inside of my ankle, like it feels like there's a tendon, or it's not really flat foot, but there's a tendon that's something on the inside of my ankle, and it hurts when I walk. And
does your foot tend to roll in a little bit?
It does. It does.
Yeah. Okay.
I tend towards, you could say I tend towards flat feet. I don't have total flat feet, but
right.
But I started walking more the past couple of months, and the past week or so, it's really been hurting. And I've been trying different oils. So this is my next question is, through the different classes that I've been taking with you, I've gathered a few oils that I would think might work. And I'll just tell you what they are, because I had questions about them. Marjoram, hyssop, mugwort, maybe basil. So those are the four, those are the first three are really the ones that I just like, I'm not sure what to do with this, or if there's anything.
Yeah. So part of it is like an alignment issue, and with something like that, people's feet are never like perfectly aligned. So you could say everybody has a little bit of alignment issue, but part of it is when the foot rolls in a little bit, it can strain a couple of those areas. And think of it kind of like a sprain or a strain that's like chronic, like it gets aggravated all the time. I would probably start with marjoram. Marjoram, like you just put it on neat and rub it on the area, but also rub it a little bit past, you know what I mean? So rub it behind, a little bit above, a little bit down below, like kind of cover an area, like put 6-8 drops on there and just really kind of rub it in. And the goal should be that the pain is reduced, shortly after putting it on, because of the strain, but also that the intensity should start to diminish over a period of time after a couple applications. And so even after a couple applications, if the intensity isn't diminishing, we always want to increase the amount of time in between, an incident, and then also decrease the intensity. And so basically it takes longer and longer for it to come back around. And it's just, even when it does, it's not as intense. And so if marjoram doesn't cut it, you could use spikenard or vetiver. But they might be good. Marjoram would actually be my first shot. Hyssop could actually be somewhat of a pain reliever for the area. So you could even, if you're not finding relief with the marjoram, you could try the hyssop. There is one oil that is good for feet related issues, and it's Tagetes, like Tagetes. And a lot of times what it does is it's very soothing, increases circulation in the foot. It can reduce some of the pain, but without generating heat. Like it's kind of like a real kind of cool. It's heavy, kind of like spikenard or vetiver, but it's a bit different. Very good for circulation, especially feet-related circulation, and it's in the marigold family. And so a lot of the things in the marigold family are really soothing and anti-inflammatory, can increase circulation, but in a way that's like cool, not like generating heat like cinnamon or thyme or black pepper or something. And so that's where I would start. Like whenever I see something that's happening in like the ankle or foot, I like to always treat it even up to the knee, because a lot of the tendons down in the foot, the muscle is up in the leg. And so you might even play around with putting some of the marjoram like in and around like your Achilles tendon on the back and a little bit on the lower part of the shin, like the outside of your shin bone. And so if you're not sure where, just kind of like up above the ankle, just kind of do like a full circle around it, like where the Achilles tendon is and a little bit higher. If you did that a couple of times, it should reduce that quite substantially. The issue is it might come back from time to time just because of a little bit of misalignment. There's orthotics or like shoes that you can get that have some arch support, but when you take the shoes off and you're going barefoot, it's still going to come back again. And so my goal is to be able to treat it even regardless if you get orthotics or not. Like you should be able to resolve the pain issue with that. And so those would be the two places that I would start. I don't think you need to go real deep into like things that would be good for specifically for pain, because I think it's more of like a strain. And if you just reduce some of the tension in the area, it should really resolve itself. Occasionally you get an issue like if this is the heel of the foot, like the back part of your foot, like sometimes right in front of it, like across. Like sometimes that can get really, really tight. And so you could rub some marjoram in there and kind of just dig with your thumb a little bit, not intensely, but just try to like loosen it up a little bit. Sometimes that will bring you a little bit of relief as well. But the marjoram should really resolve it with maybe daily applications for like a week or two. That should really probably resolve it.
And just neat or in oil?
Yeah, I would just do neat. Especially the first couple of times I would do neat. Marjoram's pretty gentle, and unless you're having some sort of reactions on the skin, I would just probably do neat. If you are starting to have a little bit of reaction, just put some marjoram and like a little bit of lotion and rub it in the area. But neat should be fine. Maybe long term when there starts to be more maintenance, you can do like in an oil base. But right now I'd like to get, a pretty hefty dosage in that area. And so I would go for a neat application.
Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Another one, like if you're just concerned about inflammation, and it is kind of an odd spot, is a neat application, like if a couple of these things don't work, is some frankincense actually might knock it out. But frankincense wouldn't be my first choice, but if some of these other things aren't working, then I would start to go to like something like frankincense.
Okay.
It should be very treatable though. Yeah.
I hope so, because it's really
it should be. I mean, it's actually a very common problem.
It is. Okay. Well, so this sort of leads to a general question, and I don't know if you want to go into it, but because it's like those three oils that I mentioned, the marjoram, the hyssop, and the mugwort.
Oh, mugwort.
Yeah. And there might be others too, but those are ones that have been, I've had different interactions where people said, use any of those three for basically for pain or for, the same kind of, I don't know what the differences are that I would choose one over the other in general, just.
Sure. So, I'm glad to go through that a little bit. So, marjoram out of all of them is probably your best antispasmodic. It is one of the best, like that, and the peppers are like some of the best, just man, they can knock a spasm out, a cramp, things like that. Basil can have, it has antispasmodic properties. It's a little bit better for like when there's like been a long-term injury and the body is kind of splinting the area. like, you know, you go to like a back where there's a thin disc or something like that.
Mhm.
Basil tends to work a little bit better in that area rather than just being an antispasmodic. I mean, it will work as an antispasmodic just like marjoram, but marjoram is more effective.
Mhm.
The other thing with marjoram that I like is, for one, it's very activating to the heart. Um, and it helps pull the body out of fight flight,
Oh,
which when somebody is having some sort of pain syndrome, especially something, you know, even something mild like this can cause a little bit of fight flight, but if it's a pretty severe pain syndrome, there tends to be a lot of fight flight activity because the body is dealing and managing pain. And so the use of marjoram, it helps pull the body out of fight flight and helps to tone the vagus nerve, which is tied to the parasympathetic part of the nervous system, or your rest and repair mode of your nervous system. And so it's really good in you know, helping with sleep, helping with spasms, helping with if the body's been under a lot of stress. It can be super, super helpful. Basil is helpful for stress too, but it tends to be a little bit more of mental stress, where the marjoram is a little bit more for the physical stress. Basil is good for a lot of things. It's a good etheric cleanser. It's good for cleaning up the conditioning that happens over a period of time. Like I said, it's very good for like the splinting of joints, you know, when the body is trying to protect itself. Basil is an incredible mental stimulant. It's very good for stimulating the mind, offsetting the effects of stress on the mind. Boy, it's hard to do something better than basil. So if there is starting to be some brain fatigue from pain or something like that, basil would be kind of the next phase. But given the level of pain that you have, it's probably more of an annoyance than anything.
yeah.
And so, you know, the marjoram should work, but basil, good for a lot of digestive issues, good for mental function. Even like infections in the digestive tract. It can be an antispasmodic for both the gut and respiratory tract. So because of that, it can also be kind of good for treating some low-level anxiety. The mugwort is very good for like menstrual cramps, but actually so is marjoram. You know, you rub it down on the lower abdomen. But the thing that mugwort is really good at is opening up the meridians or the energy channels to a particular area. So like one of the ways like we could be looking at this situation is if you wanted to put the marjoram on locally and then open up the flow of energy down to that area, you would put a little bit of mugwort on like the joints, like on the hip, on the knee, behind the knee, even on the ankle, like where it creases on the front. That would open the flow up to that area to help accelerate the healing process. And then mugwort is very good for stimulating the right side of the brain, which is a little bit more of the intuitive side. So it would help one to be not so fixated. Like when you're managing chronic pain, it's hard not to get fixated on the pain because it, you know, it hurts, right? And so one of the things that can happen is it really can anchor the mind on that spot. And mugwort kind of helps break you free of that component so that you're not as fixated on that spot. You would use that probably a little bit more in chronic pain syndromes that were, you know, moderately severe to extremely severe. But it could also enhance sleep somewhat, especially dream activity, you know, because of the stimulation of the right side of the brain. And so these all can actually be used simultaneously. You'd get probably better results not mixing them together, but applying them each individually. So, you know, you get the benefits of each one. sometimes when you mix all three things together, or just, you know, several things together, it becomes something different, and they don't always retain the properties that you're shooting for. So in doubt, do more of a layered approach where you go through and you put something on, and even if you want to go through and put mugwort on a little bit later, you know, give it 15 or 20 minutes, and then you could put another little layer on something. And so when you're putting something on neat and being concerned about like any sort of like skin irritation or reaction, most times it would be a little bit itchy, you know, like maybe 20-30 minutes afterwards. And so you'd go, oh, you know, maybe not as much, or not a neat application. I wouldn't go crazy with the neat application, but I also wouldn't hold back, you know. So if the skin can handle it, I would go for it. If there's some sensitivity, just mix it in with a little massage oil or lotion.
Okay. Thank you.
You're so welcome.
I've just been collecting all these oils that I think are for the same thing, but I knew there must be.
They have differences. Yeah. And a time and a place for each one. I mean, all three of those are bread and butter oils, though. Like you can use them for a lot of different things.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Yeah, keep us posted on how that goes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Go ahead, Megan.
Hey, Greg, me again.
Hey.
Would you mind checking in on how it's going? I mean, I did test out what I've been working on and it didn't go great, but I don't know if I should keep doing the same thing you described last time or something new.
Okay. Yeah, it took me a minute to process.
Yeah, it was there's
Yeah.
a tear in the sex chakra. I did the cleaning and the gold and
Right. Okay, let's look here. Yeah, the tear looks better. It's still not as cleaned up as I was hoping for, but let's maybe have you move on, and maybe we'll come back to it.
Okay.
You know, because we're kind of taking the approach of not really chasing the symptom right now, but just trying to recondition the system. So you say just focused on the sex chakra and
large on the big men, and then mugwort on the arms and legs. I just did the joint with the joints with a roller ball this time because I was going through like too much by mixing it with lotion.
right.
A whole arm and leg, and some poplar on the sex chakra, and then pranic healing on the arms and legs directed toward energy of thought, elementals, and thought worms. I did that. I haven't done that every day, but
yeah, but you've done it several times.
Yeah. So, and I got some new oils. I got Protective Webs blend and sandalwood, and I've been putting the Tuscan rosemary on my ajna just in case that helped with something.
Okay, I think do you have frankincense or myrrh?
Yeah, frankincense.
Okay.
And myrrh, actually, a little bit.
Let's have you mix the frankincense and myrrh together if you have a little container that you can mix them, and about 5 parts frankincense, 1 part myrrh, and just a little tiny bit, like, you know, just enough to make something that you can smell.
Okay.
And let's have you do the pattern of the Lord's Prayer
Okay.
with that. And so the issue is, like, you know, going through and doing what we're doing is we're trying to flush out agitation in the system that's associated with abandonment. And I don't know that it's about any particular one situation. You know, we just get kind of an accumulation of agitation in the system.
So
It's not
I'm
about
absolutely sure of at least one situation. Would it help if I did healing on that situation?
It's probably even a bunch of things that you're not even aware of.
Okay.
Like, I mean, it can help that if you want to do that one situation, but I would say, let's just flush it out. Let's not even worry about what it was. Let's bust out the shotgun and just start, you know, start just going at it. And so, you know, just start from the crown. The big spots that where you'd want to linger is the ajna, the throat, the solar plexus, and the basic. Still do those other things that you're doing. You know, basically, I was trying to like prime the pipes for things to flush out more easily, because when we start doing this, it will start to flush things out. And if there's a bunch of blockages, it just gets stuck, and it can cause like just being uncomfortable for a little while it's passing. And so this should make it move a little bit slower. The reason why I had you clean the sex chakra so much is that the sex chakra is tied to our pain response. And so by kind of diminishing that, it allows for more to like flush out and release without it being as uncomfortable as it could. And so I think we kind of hit our spot where we need to flush some things out, because the pain response isn't changing a whole lot. So that just means there's something in there agitating it. And so like, let's just start flushing that out. And so you know, again, like it's a little bit of a bigger picture approach. So it's not like you're gonna have a flick of a switch and go, all of a sudden the phobia is gone.
Yeah.
You know, this is almost like setting the phobia aside. Let's just keep flushing these things out, and we'll keep checking in with the phobia from time to time. And after we get it cleaned up a bit more, when the time comes and the phobia is still there, it'll be much easier to target and treat. But you know, you'd already done so much therapy, you know, with other modalities and everything with the phobia, that if it was just simply going to be something that could go away, it would have gone away already. Yeah. And so there's something in the system that keeps like aggravating it. So what we're trying to do is unwind the things that contribute, so that we can go back and target the phobia again at some point. And so you know, the tears look completely fixed. And so let's just do this next phase, and you know, give it like three days to about a week, and then get back to me on that. And then yeah.
Can I do this like 2-3 times?
You can do it daily. Yeah, a couple times a day if you want. Yeah.
And then
I do this on myself. The Frankincense and Myrrh, you know, I have that blend 3 wise men that is, you know, based on the 3 wise men giving frankincense and myrrh. Part of it is it strengthens the basic chakra by going through and doing that over a period of time. And part of that blend also does reduce the agitation that comes from abandonment. And by going through and doing that, a lot of times what people call stress is actually more about abandonment than anything. And a lot of times actually even things like anxiety and stuff is actually more abandonment related, because it's not so much like there was this incident and I got abandoned or I got rejected. We're constantly managing rejection, abandonment, the threat of abandonment, there's just, it's so much a part of everyday life that a lot of it doesn't even register what's happening. But like in the corporate setting, a lot of times what they complain about and they call stress is usually some form of abandonment type issue.
Okay.
Yeah. And then abandonment causes fear. And so like a lot of fear mechanisms are based on agitation in the body or in the mental body concerning the abandonment, like how to manage it, how to avoid it, how to whatever. And so it starts creating like fear mechanisms. So we're fleshing out the body. This is actually even when we're going to start hitting the mental body. Most likely this is in the physical body. I don't see it right on the surface in the mental body. So that means if it is in the mental body, we'll have to drill down to get it. And that will also be more comfortable if we clean the body up first, because when you really start digging in on the mental body, sometimes it causes weird reactions in the physical body, mostly in the gut and the muscle that covers the gut. And so we want to minimize any sort of discomfort there. So this is the natural progression, the next step. And most likely this will clear it up. But even if it doesn't, there's still other things that could be done. But this would need to be done no matter what.
Okay, thank you. Then I'm just curious, how can I use the protective webs blend? Because I'm interested in just cleaning all my webs in general.
Go through and do the Lord's Prayer, or just focus on the chakra and just inhale on that particular spot. When you want to hit them all and do it like in a quick way, inhale the protective webs blend with your awareness just on your kidneys. And your kidneys directly impact all your protective webs. Okay. So does the basic chakra. The protective webs are an extension of the basic chakra. All of them, regardless of where they're at. They're all extensions of the basic chakra.
Okay, so I'm guessing if a person's chakra webs are really congested, they would have trouble being like sensitive to energy, clairvoyant, etc. So is this a step? Like I went through my clairvoyance class. There's a protective web section there, but that's just
they would have all of that. They would have trouble with the expansion in meditation. They would, to a certain extent, even have issues with detaching from situations like, say you have conflict with somebody and you're like, okay, we're done. It would be harder to disconnect and walk away with a lot of congestion on the protective webs. Okay. So it's like, in a way, it's tied to your ability to be detached.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It's like, think of it like this, is like whatever is on the webs that has accumulated for a period of time is still attracting energy from the environment to still keep coming to the person. And so just because the situation is gone doesn't mean that you don't walk into another situation and keep attracting something again. So it's like a way of breaking patterns. Whenever you clean the webs, you are literally starting to break a pattern.
So the materialization classes must have a component of cleaning the
webs. Yeah. Like it's a bit more refined. A lot of times people need other things to be cleaned up before like this gets cleaned up, but it could very much be. So like I have that story. I don't know if I'll tell it again real quickly, but so I was driving around town, this was, I don't know, like 10 years ago or something. And I was just running errands and some person pulled up next to me and just started flipping me the bird. And like, you could tell they were talking and saying a bunch of profanity. I had no idea what had happened. I must have cut them off or didn't put a blinker on, who knows? Like, it's not a super busy town, so who knows? But they were pretty upset. And, we left the stoplight, we got to the next stoplight, they're still going off about it. And I'm like, wow, that was really weird. I didn't think anything of it. And so then I walked into this store, and I needed to just get something and pay something, like I think it was a bill or something. And there was like 3 or 4 people in front of me, and the person waiting on everybody was really super nice and everything. And each person, she was really super nice. And I got up there, and she was aggressive and hostile and kind of insulting. And I was just like, wow, that's not what I've heard the last 10 minutes with the people in front of me. And then I stepped away, and she went back to being nice again. And I was like, that is bizarre. And so I left and I went somewhere else, and boom, same thing happened. And I was like, what is going on? And then it dawned on me, that person, even though they were saying the words and giving me the finger and everything, there was also a bunch of energy projected on that. It was on the webs. And so then I start interacting with people, like attracts like. All of a sudden, that's getting agitated. So I cleaned the webs up. It took like 5 or 10 minutes, and I just went through and I cleaned them up. And I was like, this is an experiment. So I went back to that store. And it didn't like bring up previous interactions or anything.
Yeah.
I just waited in line and went through. Nice as she could be, like completely different.
Yeah.
And so, it kind of showed me in a way, like, sometimes what people do is they unconsciously sense what's on the webs. It kind of draws something out in them, or they're reacting to something that's on the web. And so part of how we get treated is sometimes also based on what other people have done to us in the past. And so you see this a lot with trauma victims. That's why I even went there with my head, was you see somebody who's been traumatized, other people keep traumatizing the person in a very similar way. And so part of what we would do to break trauma patterns with people is, we'd spend crazy amounts of time on the protective webs. And so, this wasn't quite that extreme, but it still shows how that impacts us.
Yeah.
And so it holds the energy from people on the outside, but it also holds energy in. So it doesn't allow for expansion of consciousness. Sometimes it doesn't allow for shifts out of like certain states, like being in a stress state or something like that, if they get really impacted. So cleaning the webs up, it's a really good habit.
Really quick, with pranic healing, if I wanted to do like all the webs in someone like quickly, because we have also webs, like not just on the major chakras, it's like everywhere. So could I do, just for instance, like would it work to do like a 3-8-2 on the whole like aura of the web, or do I really have to go one by one?
I would go one by one.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, really poke a lot with your crystal. Really poke a lot on it. They get really super impacted.
Okay.
Like there's really kind of no shortcut than that. Poplar balsam is really good for cleaning them, and the protective web blend is really good for cleaning them. So you can take baths in it, you can inhale it. When you want to clean them really quickly, do that on your kidneys, or if you want to do something really fast with pH, do delicate regeneration on the kidneys.
Okay. So you said to clean, not just repair, or that will do both?
With pH on the kidneys, you're just energizing. If you've cleaned them up a little bit, it'll be a bunch of energizing.
Okay. That's all the webs, just the delicate regeneration on the kidneys. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. It makes them shed.
Okay.
Yeah.
And go ahead, Miriam, then Laura.
Hi, Greg.
Hey, Miss Miriam.
How are you?
Good, good.
Still struggling with the plantar fasciitis. And it's
How's that painful spot? Is that painful spot getting better?
it's better, but it's like when I walk, the whole thing ignites again. It doesn't, and when I walk, like I'm trying to do 4 miles on treadmill, I'm trying to walk outside, but the treadmill seems to kill it. And so even if I don't
Is the
go,
treadmill up at an angle?
no.
No.
If I have to skip days, it heals, not completely.
Right.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And walking outside seems better than walking on the treadmill. I don't know why. Maybe the shoes aren't the same. I don't know.
Shoes aren't the same, and you get to control the pace maybe a little bit better. Where the treadmill is it like it might be.
Yeah. So I'm doing everything that you suggested, plus the internal, the black cumin and the bay laurel. Added the parsley and the, not internally though. Parsley's not internal. It's not as inflamed going up my leg. It's more centered on the bottom. It doesn't feel as thick on the bottom as it was.
Okay. Well, I would say we could go two ways with this. Like one, we could continue with an oil and something that is like a dark blue, like a yarrow or a German chamomile, something like that.
Okay.
And put a whole bunch of it in just a little tiny bit of lotion or massage oil, or even alcohol, and just rub it on the foot. The other thing is, it sounds like it's better, but it's still, like you said, with a little bit of exercise, it still gets aggravated. I mean, you might have to wear that brace at night. It's like, so you can just go online and get them. I think they're like $20-25 or something, but it keeps your foot like bent like this.
Yeah, I think Dave has that. Yeah.
Yeah, and so usually we can knock it out without having to do that. But if the yarrow doesn't make it better, or German chamomile, whichever one you're using, with like say 3-4 applications, if it's not like moving towards the right direction, it's probably time to try the brace for a little bit. Like you just got to keep it from getting inflamed. The exercise is like you said, you take a break and then you exercise, and then it gets a little bit more aggravated. I would say, you're not going to be able to limit movement during the day, but maybe it's getting aggravated also at night. We can just try to minimize that and give it some rest time when your body is resting. Because if the foot is pointing at night, you're aggravating it.
Yeah, it's not, I don't think, I mean, I'm asleep. Yeah. I don't really know.
Yeah. Well, it's like it has to almost like stay, like the brace almost makes it stay
flexed.
Yeah, flexed almost like an unnatural way. Like you wouldn't sleep that way. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so it's like, it's kind of over exaggerating a position, but it might be what has to happen in the next phase. I mean, usually we can knock it out with oils, but there's been a few cases where I've had to have them use the brace. I would still do the yarrow or the German chamomile, just whatever you have, something that's dark blue. Like the blue is azulene, which is a really strong anti-inflammatory, and so that should knock it out. Should calm down the sensory nerves. Now that I say that, try the German chamomile yarrow, and also like some form of sage, like a Spanish sage or just a regular sage, try
Yes.
alternating those two. And you can
Okay.
do the sage neat, and the sage could calm down the sensory nerve endings. Sometimes with chronic pain syndromes, the nerve gets used to being excited, and it has to be taught to like calm down again. And so you see that a lot in back syndromes. Let's have you rotate those two and see if that helps. And then if that doesn't help, like maybe the next step would be the brace.
Okay, and should I continue with that whole other protocol that
Yeah, I would still keep doing all that other stuff. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
after
I
my-
mean, with that, I would keep doing it until you're symptom free for at least like 2 or 3 weeks. Like keep
Okay.
doing it, like keep treating it as if it's there until you're at least 2 or 3 weeks out of being, symptom free.
So, and I should I stay off the treadmill for all that time? And just, I mean, it's probably hard to, exercise.
Maybe just reduce it a little bit, but like if you can maybe, like you said, like walking outside doesn't aggravate it as much. I mean, you're going to be walking around anyway, so you might as well like maybe just do like normal. Well, it's so cold back there. Yeah. Maybe just don't do the treadmill as much. Yeah. Still do it, but this is what I do with athletes a lot is we try to treat, even though they're injured, we still try to treat them like through the injury. I mean, there's some things where you just got to rest it. I'm always game to try to heal it as there's activity. If there are some things that you need to rest, that might be the case, but I would do the brace before I would do completely no exercise, no activity.
Okay.
Yeah, like the rest and the rest would be like the last resort.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It should be treatable. Sometimes it might be just that it needs more time, but given how long you've been treating it, it needs a little something extra because it should be a little bit farther along by now. Yeah. So there's something aggravating it. So it could be the nerve endings, could be just a little bit more inflammation reduction. That could be it. And then if that doesn't work, do the brace. And then if that doesn't work, let's reevaluate. But then that might be that you need to just rest it for a couple of weeks or something.
Okay.
Yeah. But for me, that's always the last resort, unless it's something that absolutely needs it. There's some things where you just got to rest it. And this isn't necessarily well.
Okay. I could probably even use that brace during the day, couldn't I? If I'm sitting.
It's really just meant for sleep. Yeah. Like you could still stand around. The thing that braces can be good or bad with activity during the day, because like sometimes it gives you like a false sense of that it's doing good, and sometimes you overdo it, and then when you take the brace off, it actually hurts like worse. It can be a little bit worse. And so I like the idea of you wearing it just at bed, where you're not going to really overdo it, overuse it, and then when you're off, you can self-correct as you're moving around. And so I would say just at night.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're so welcome.
And then go ahead, Laura, then Mary Ann.
Hi, Greg.
Hey.
I have a question that goes back to the protective web question.
Sure. Yeah.
And there are two things. One, and I may have missed this. You may have said it, and I'm sorry if I did. I don't think I have the protective webs blend. So what would you use instead of protective webs blend? And have we had this in a different class that I've probably taken that I could pull it up?
It was in, I don't know if it was in a kit.
Okay.
It was in the etheric healing class. is when I talked about. I think, is that what the class it was?
I got
I think it was in that class. But so if you don't have that, poplar balsam works. That's something similar.
Okay, I've got that.
Okay, perfect. I was going to say there's a couple other things that don't work anywhere as well, but they would work. Lovage would be another thing that I'd throw in there, but linden blossom is one of the best things for it, and that's in the protective web blend. And so it takes a lot of the tension out of the webs. Poplar has a cleansing effect, but it doesn't really reduce the tension so much.
And just
And
focus
so-
on the kidneys.
Just focus on the kidneys, and it just will
Okay.
flush everything out. If you want to go chakra by chakra, you can, but if you just focus on kidneys, it hits all the webs, all the webs of the body.
Excellent. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
you're so welcome.
Go ahead, Marianne, then Chris.
My question was, I'm not familiar with the protective web.
Yeah. Yeah. So the protective web is there's the surface of the energy center, the chakra, and then the body, and in between the surface of the chakra and the body is a little like filter, and it just kind of is a thing that protects you from energies and things from the environment, and it's actually an extension. It sends information to the nervous system, and it helps the soft tissue or the fascia in your body react. And I suspect it also has a slight impact on the immune system, on immune function.
Okay,
And so it's just like, think of it like a coffee filter that is there that never gets changed. And if you made 100 pots of coffee with that same filter, it's going to get a little bit like yucky, you know what I mean? And so over a period of time, we just go through and clean them. And so in some of the protocols and some of the classes, even though I don't directly mention this, it does have a cleansing effect on these things. And here we're talking about like really specifically targeting them, but even going through some of the classes, these things have been addressed and have been cleaned up.
so if I use the poplar balsam and focus on the kidneys,
Yes, 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 yes,
okay, thank you.
yes,
I need it badly.
yeah.
Go ahead.
And Marianne, is it okay if I talk to you just like maybe right after the class?
That would be
Can we-
wonderful, thank
Yeah,
you.
good.
After Angels.
Yeah, after Angel.
Go ahead, Chris.
Hey Sam, hey Greg.
Hey,
Hey. Greg, can I borrow your x-ray vision and just take a look at my right
Sure.
shoulder?
you're right, Joe.
And a little bit on the left too. It's been ongoing pain.
So tell me what's been going on.
Like when I reach or grab something, and in the morning, there's a lot of pain in the shoulder joint.
Is it like over here on the side or is it, like,
Inside.
it's
Yeah,
deep
right there.
inside the
Mhm.
joint?
And I sweep myself and do the gloves when I do healing, but not sure if it has something to do with that too.
And so it's not really responding to treatment, or treatment makes it better and then it gets worse again, or what's
Yeah,
happening?
treatment gets makes it feel better, and then I reach for something, and then we're back to
And so reaching is out front or to the side?
more
Like going up?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Most likely, so this is what I would say. Like most likely you have what you call an impingement. When I look at you though, you look like you also have a little bit of bicipital tendonitis, which your bicep is like it starts here, but then eventually it turns into these two tendons that come up in this area. And the pain for the tendonitis is up here, but the problem is actually just right above your elbow. Like, so like if the elbow bends here, like this, it's
Yeah.
actually just a little bit above that.
Oh,
So even if
interesting.
you like let your arm be kind of relaxed and you poke around in that area, like above, like so. Here's my elbow. Like if I go up a little bit higher, I start poking around, it'll be really tender.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I found it.
You feel that? Yeah.
Mhm.
So, okay, so you're treating, even though they're both of the same shoulder, you're treating two kind of different things that they do kind of overlap, but they are a little bit of like separate. And so you could use marjoram. You could use, I like to use like the peppers, like black pepper, pink pepper, something like that. You could also probably use ginger.
Ginger. Okay.
Yeah, and if you didn't have any of those, cedar might even work. But I'd probably go to like basil, marjoram, the peppers. Pepper would be my first choice if you had it.
Okay, I
If you
just got
don't-
the pepper.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, that's
pepper
actually perfect.
Something
So
supreme.
put a little bit on the area right above your elbow.
Okay.
The crease, and then a little bit on you're basically wanting to take some of the tension out of the rotator cuff. If you take pressure off the rotator cuff, part of what's going to happen is it makes space so that when you're raising your arm, basically you have these two pieces that come closer together, and there's a little piece of cartilage sticking out there. And so every time you get to a certain point, it pinches that piece of cartilage. And so what we're trying to do is take some of the tension out of the rotator cuff so that space gets bigger and you really don't compress that piece of cartilage anymore. And so a little bit on the top of the shoulder, and like not so much in the armpit, but like if you're reaching like through your armpit and trying to go back and touch your shoulder blade, like back here, like that, if you could get some oil like in here, and even have your husband rub it directly on the shoulder blade.
Shoulder blade. Yeah, I've been having him do that, but I've been using marjoram.
Marjoram, probably switch to the pepper. Yeah. Like treat it like that, like say 4 or 5 days in a row, and then send us an email and let me know how it is. Like the pepper should, because the thing with the pepper is it's antispasmodic, it increases blood flow to the area, but it also that combination of the peppers, it actually releases the fascia as well. And so sometimes what happens is there's a constriction in the fascia. And so even though the muscle is relaxing, the fascia isn't. And so the muscle can only relax so much. So we're kind of doing like a 1-2 punch here, where we're opening up the soft tissue and the fascia at the same time and trying to unwind that shoulder girdle. And so sometimes it needs like, a few weeks or a month or so of therapy. But I mean, I can't tell you how many times like athletes in particular would be getting ready to go have surgery. We treated it for a while and no surgery is needed. Like, every once in a while surgery is needed, but mostly this could be treated with therapy.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
When it's
And I try not to
aggravating,
sleep on my side, although I always
like
find
all those
myself
kinds
on
of
my
things
side.
help, because basically what happens is the nerve gets irritated, and you'll even notice like down in your little thumb web, it starts to get a little bit puffy. But on the one side, is your thumb web puffy?
Hang on. Not really.
Okay. When it gets irritated, the thumb web will start to puff up because there's a nerve that kind of passes through that area that, the shoulder will kind of ache almost like a toothache kind of feeling. It's like a dull ache, but it's like a nerve ache. And it's just because the nerve's been irritated and gets a little bit inflamed. If it gets like where the pain's real bad, you can reduce some of the pain nerve inflammation with, helichrysum would work, German chamomile, yarrow. I sometimes with that, I even mix in a little bit of helichrysum with just a tiny amount of clove. And the clove has a pain relieving property and has an anti-inflammatory effect on the nerve ending that's really specific to really super irritated nerves, like where it's got that dull toothache pain. It works really good. It works really good for that. But you can't put clove on neat because it will irritate the skin. So mix it with a like helichrysum and then a little bit of like massage oil or something and rub it on there.
Okay. Thank you so much,
You're
Greg.
so welcome. But let us know in about 4 or 5 days.
I will. Thank you.
And go ahead, Kathy.
Yeah, back to the protective webs. I'm
Mhm.
like, I feel like a coffee filter that's been used too much. So
Yeah, don't we all?
yeah, I have poplar balsam and I can order the protective webs. So first of all, which
You-
of those-
You got the poplar balsam. I work with what you got. Yeah.
Okay.
That should be a good start. Yeah.
okay, so you mentioned the kidneys. So is that just inhale it and focus on the
Yeah.
lower back and the kidneys and
Mhm.
no pad or anything, just focus and
Just the
inhale it.
kidneys. Yep. Just focus on the kidneys. Yeah.
And that should clear all my protective web. I don't understand exactly what protective webs
Yeah.
are.
You're basically unwinding a type of conditioning. And so it's more about like interactions with people or being in environments that maybe weren't always clean. Like say you're in a stressful office or something, some of that just soaked into those webs. Or if people have been aggressive to you or hostile or things like that, which we've all had. It helps pull those things off. It really makes the body feel a lot lighter, feels a lot better. For me, I always notice like when I clean them up, it makes my head feel like more open or more clear. And so you should feel like your body feels lighter, but also like your head feels a little lighter. And there's been times where there was a heaviness in the, like I'd say in the emotional body, that when I went through and did that, all of a sudden the heaviness went away. Yeah.
So just the kidneys and for just for like 5 or 10 minutes, focusing
Yeah,
on,
like 5-10 minutes, but like maybe once or twice a week.
okay, not daily. I tend to overdo it.
Yeah, you could totally do it daily. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, once or twice a week is a good amount, but like when you really want to clean it up, there's nothing wrong with daily. Yeah.
Okay, and plus it's such a lovely oil. I kind of
Yeah, isn't it?
treated myself when I purchased that one.
Yeah. Good for you.
Yeah. Now, one other thing that I'm
Mhm.
doing a lot of variety of things and practitioners and stuff. And I have this disconnect with my younger self, something happened or whatever.
Mhm.
It kind of is like, it seems to be like if something happens and I feel like weepy, then I know it's like kind of my 5-year-old self that
Gotcha.
and I'm working on, I'm in this intrinsic health course and it's sort of like integrating that part of myself. Is there an oil that I don't even know how to describe what I'm trying to achieve exactly?
Still use your poplar balsam, but then put your awareness on the brain.
The brain. Okay.
Mhm.
Now we're doing both those, like kidneys for a while and the brain kind of the same
Mhm.
time. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Or anything like
No,
that.
I mean, you're already like partially there. You could do all the organs of blood purification, like the brain, the lungs, the liver, the gallbladder, the kidney, the spleen.
So just look up blood purification because I'm sure I have that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. If Letty's on, Letty might be able to post it real quick.
Okay, I'll copy it. Okay. I think that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome.
Sorry, Greg, I missed that. Post what again?
The blood purification pattern.
Oh, okay, okay.
Just so you know, she was busy finding every class that Protective Webs is in
Oh,
and posting it.
Letty is amazing and awesome. Thank you so much, Letty.
Go ahead, Ralph.
Hey, Ralph.
You are still muted. There you go.
Hey, great class this weekend. Thank you.
No, thank you. You're so kind.
That was one of the deepest classes I've had for a long
Yeah, it was an
time.
intense one. Yeah, it was very intense.
Intense. So I'm interested in processes for psychic self-attack and cord cutting.
Okay.
Where would I find those? What class are they contained in? Are they both?
They're in the psychic protection class. There's like 2 days. The first day is like the cleanup part, and then the second day is where it says metamorphosis in the booklet, goes deeper in conditioning so that your body is not as reactive when those things are happening. But rule of thumb is like, let's just talk about like some bare basics on dealing with people projecting negativity towards you, because it's everywhere, right?
How about I project negativity to myself?
That would still fall into the use of hyssop would actually help that. So like when you have cords with like people and things like that, rue is really good for disconnecting the cords. If you need to clean the cords up, the iron bark eucalyptus works really well for that.
How about straight eucalyptus?
It doesn't so much impact the cords as much. There is another type of eucalyptus called citrodora that basically the lemony smelling eucalyptuses have a cleansing effect on the cords. Marjoram does somewhat, not as much as the ironbark eucalyptus, but they will work. But I mean, if in doubt, just use the rue. Like the rue, like cleans it up to the point of disconnecting. And if there's kind of some dirty cords between you and somebody that are good cords but are just contaminated, even just try chanting like a mantra like Om Mani Padme Hum. That will have a cleansing effect. I usually try to do the cord cleansing like about once every 6 weeks or so. It's just like 15-20 minutes of just going through and inhaling, but sometimes I find that it's been 3 or 4 months, so it's not something that has to be done a lot unless you're in a situation. Now to reduce the tendency to absorb negativity from the environment, and then going like what you were saying, like starting to be like just maybe negativity towards oneself. Hyssop works really well for that. Hyssop works really well. Hyssop will reduce the tendency to absorb negativity from people and the environment substantially. It does reduce also the self-dialogue where you might be grinding on yourself a lot. I mean, everybody's got it to a certain extent, but you can do it like while you're like, if you get caught in a loop where that's starting to happen, you can sit and do it. Or if you just want to go through and kind of clean that up, do the cranial pattern, the throat minor, back throat, jaws, temple, back head, forehead, but with hyssop. You could do that with hyssop, or you could do it with one of the furs, like any of the furs would work. Hyssop would be my first choice for what you're asking about. And then from time to time, salt bath with a little hyssop or salt scrub, just something to clean up from time to time is very helpful. Part of the self-dialogue is impacted by like thought forms that get lodged in our arms and legs, and can be other parts too, like in the spine and things, but it's just stuff that gets like stuck in the body. And so hyssop is really good for breaking those things up and releasing them. So in the Old Testament, Solomon says, "Purify me with hyssop, make me white as snow." The white as snow is like physicalizing soul energy coming in. And so part of how that happens is the disintegration of those thought forms that are lodged in the body. And so like one of the things if you're not even sure, or if you have a hard time with the pattern. We're actually going to do a version of this in the angel class tonight, where we were going to, well, we still are, but part of what you would do is you would put your awareness on the brain with the, inhale the hyssop and just do several cycles, and then let yourself rest, and then go back to the brain again, and again do several cycles, and be sure to try to get like the front, the middle, the back. A lot of times the front and the back are the places that need the most attention, but it's the hardest for us to keep our attention there. And so that's why it's good to kind of do it and then let it go, and then do it and then let it go. And like, you know, because you come back with like a fresh mind that you can hold your attention there for longer periods of time. Yeah, do that for a little while, and that should reduce that quite substantially.
Okay.
And then, and if it doesn't, you know, bring it to our attention, it just means that we have to address some other things, but usually that will knock a lot of it
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Good. Thanks.
out. You're so welcome.
Yeah, and I'll get that psychic protection class.
Yeah, boy, that's a solid class. That's one I still do from time to time. You know, I've done that one and the higher creativity in those 4 alchemical classes. Man, I do those on a semi-regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Thanks.
Good, you bet.
And again, you guys can always raise your hand, unmute yourself, but I'm going to go into the chats here. Is marjoram good for arthritis in thumb joint?
Yeah, I mean, it would be helpful, but part of with an arthritic condition in the thumb joint, and I'm assuming you're meaning this joint right here. Like it's not this joint, it's like up in here.
Let me just see if she responds.
That's the most common place where the arthritic issue is, and so.
Yes, she's.
Yeah, okay. So that's usually tied to, it can be a little bit of diminished of cartilage, but it can be a lot of deposits. And so we want to use things like lovage, eucalyptus citrodora, or we were just talking about ironbark eucalyptus. Lovage would be my first swing at it. You know, we have that blend Arthrocare. That's a blend of all the things that are good for a joint like that. But if you don't have those, ginger could be helpful. Rosemary would increase circulation, but not necessarily break up the blockages, the deposits. You really want to break up deposits. And deposits sometimes are not necessarily like the spurs that are on the joint, but there's like just that material floating around in the joint in the process of settling. And what we want to do is break that up and flush it out of the system, because it's causing irritation and aggravation in those joints. And so the eucalyptuses and that Arthrocare, they're very anti-inflammatory, but real specific to that condition. And if you use it over a period of time, it should reduce the symptoms. And granted, you probably have a little bit of spurring in there, or a little bit of thinning of cartilage in that area. And so it'll be something that you'll have to treat, you know, kind of semi-consistently, but you should be able to find pretty substantial relief relatively quickly.
Matt, I'm unmuted.
Okay, there you go. Oh, okay. So you should be able to get some pretty good relief from that, but because that joint has degenerated a little bit, you'll have to treat it semi-consistently. Yeah.
And then go ahead, Robert.
Hi, Greg.
Hey.
I noticed a lot of new salt scrubs.
Can
we use those in place of the same oil? For instance, you suggested for my mother-in-law Spanish sage sprayed on.
Yeah,
and she's having trouble with that. Could
Like
she use salt scrub?
Yeah.
Okay.
So like have her rub it on and then let it like sit there for like a couple of minutes and then have her wash it off. And the good thing with the salt scrub is it's stimulating the lymphatic processes of the skin, and the salt also is very etherically cleansing. You know, so it's breaking up the energetic blockages, and so you're kind of getting kind of a couple bangs for what you're doing there. You're cleaning things up really, really good. You're getting the effect of the oil, and you're stimulating the lymphatic processes of the skin. So yeah, it could be a very good way. And you know, when I make the salt scrubs, I make like therapeutic grade salt scrubs. Like I'm not just putting a little bit of scent in it. I mean, I put a lot of oil in those salt scrubs. So I mean, they're pretty heavy on the essential oil. So if you leave it on, it's meant to be like a therapeutic dosage. Yeah.
I've started using the CRC salt scrub.
Yeah.
And
How do
it's
you like?
amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So I do that every morning in the shower, put it on all the chakras and let it
Beautiful.
sit for a while and rinse it.
And what's been your experience?
Well, first off, my skin feels better. Feels nice and smooth. My wife tried it and she loved it too, but it also helps me feel lighter and less attached to all the physical stuff around.
Yeah. You know, like we were talking about with hyssop, reducing the tendency to absorb negativity from the environment, you know, just like other people's stresses and, you know, whatever. Chocolate root cleanser does the same thing. Like those two are the ones that do it the best in the whole repertoire. Is, you know, if you're just in situations where there's, you know, and sometimes stress, not even people being agitated, it's just like it could be a lot of deadlines, it could be a lot of, you know, activity, it could be, you know, people discussing things that maybe they're not arguing, but they're not agreeing, you know, just talking things out. It's just all kinds of versions of that. It just keeps you from physicalizing all that stuff.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome.
And then go ahead, Sandra, then Kathy again.
Hey, Sandra.
Hi, Greg. I've been meaning to ask you for a while if you could tell me what's in your sleep blend.
The sleep support?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, let's look.
There's a very strong smell in there that kind of goes right up through my head, and I was just wondering what it was, as well as other things in it.
Okay, so there's Palo Santo, which is in there for more of a cleansing effect, reducing anxiety a little bit, just to, you know, help a person wind down. Mugwort, which opens up all the channels and helps stimulate the right side of the brain. Blood orange, which again helps to relax the body, and then spikenard, which is one of the strongest like sedative oils there is. Like spikenard and valerian are the two like super strong sedative oils in the repertoire of all the oils. And then rue. And rue helps pull you out of a little bit of fight flight, and also helps you to disconnect from negative connections from the day. You know, like, so say you're on the phone and somebody kind of gets irritated with you or angry with you, you know, even though they might not physically been in front of you, there's still like an energetic connection, and it just helps disconnect. And so that combination is to help the body relax, and also has a bit of a cleansing effect, so that you kind of shed the effects of the day. You know, it's not like a super strong cleanser, but it's meant more to be like cleansing enough to let you just like be able to shake it off and go to sleep, and let the body rest and relax.
All right, thank you. There's extremely strong smelling oil in there that I can't identify, and it really cleans my sinuses when I inhale it. And so I was just curious what that was.
It might be the rue. The rue and the spikenard are pretty heavy. I mean, actually, they're all pretty. It opens up your sinuses.
Well, it feels like it goes right up through my sinuses, which I suppose is good.
Yeah.
But it was just the first time I did it. It was so strong, I actually tasted it in my mouth.
Yeah, that's probably the rue.
Okay.
Yeah. Rue's got a pretty strong scent. It's got like a bit of a medicinal smell. It's not like you smell rue and you go, this is delicious. You go, okay, this has benefit, right? Like, it's one of those kind of oils. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kathy, then Megan.
Hey, Kathy.
Hi, a couple questions from what the other questions prompted. Number one, for the thumb joint, can you put that the same oil on all your joints if you're feeling a little restricted on the joints?
Yeah, like that Arthur-Care or Lovage or
I have Arthur-Care, actually.
Yeah, okay. So it's meant for any sort of deposits on any joint.
Right, okay.
And so it's blended for deposits.
Okay, great. Because my knees have a little bit, and I do get the thumb things as well. Now, going back to the protective webs, you said the brain, and another situation you said focus on the middle, the front, and the back. So when I do the brain with a poplar balsam, I should focus on the different parts of the brain.
Yeah, just be sure that because a lot of times we'll put our attention on the brain, and it might not be the whole brain.
Okay.
And so spend the time to make sure that you're getting the front, the middle, the back. You can do it all at once, but just make sure you're getting the whole brain.
Okay, think whole brain.
Yeah.
And then the last question is, I ordered the fascia release because I see a practitioner who's working on releasing my fascia.
Mm-hmm.
So before I go to her, what would be a good way to use that oil?
You could take a salt bath with it. You could put it in
before or after I see her then, in that case?
I would do it before, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. Or you could put it in alcohol and rub it all over the body, or witch hazel. Like witch hazel is real good. Vinegar works really well too. It's just, it smells like vinegar. So the alcohol is usually the choice. But we've been using witch hazel around here quite a bit, just because it's not as drying as alcohol, and still works really well.
And so what would be the percentage of to put some?
I'd still put like probably 20-25 drops per ounce of alcohol or witch hazel, and then shake it up really well every time you use it, and then apply it. In a salt bath, about 15 drops.
Okay. Now I ordered witch hazel because of, you said that several times, but I ended up getting one that has something in it, like either it's supposed to be for a skin tonic, so it might have a slight rose or something. Will that hurt it? And I should maybe get
it's probably just a fragrance, so I would just use it up.
Use it up. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Every once in a while they'll throw like some wintergreen in one, or like I've seen them with rose. It's especially rose, it's just a fragrance. So
I didn't notice that when I ordered it, but I got it and it had it in it. So, but I don't want to, waste it. So
I would just use it up. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're so welcome.
Go ahead, Megan, then Ralph.
Hey, Megan.
Hey, Greg. I was going to ask about my 9-year-old, two different things. One, I don't want to turn into too long of a talk, but I think he has ADD, probably mild ADD, and he's fine at school and he's not super hyper, but like his ability to like find something even when it's right in front of him is that's difficult for him. And then like, just like remembering to do stuff, like cleaning his room without being overwhelmed immediately, like just breaking rules that I just reminded him not to break, like. And then he's, I read about the 7 types of ADD, and then he's also like really negative. Like the first thing out of his mouth is always like a complaint, even though his life, if I may say, is pretty good. So I don't know if those combined like sound like one particular thing or oil that would help. And then I'm afraid to use like calming things, because in one of your talks you said that there's like a reverse effect with the nervous system where, like, for example, something.
Yeah, ADD can definitely have a paradoxical response. I would actually like a little bit of the complaining and the mood stuff. I would probably use African bluegrass for that.
Okay, I still do that a little bit already.
Okay, yeah, you can put it
And
on the
it's better.
skin.
It
Yeah,
helps.
what's that?
It helps. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I'd use that for that, but the ADD, ADHD, you know, a good general approach is you could use either single oils or a variation of combination of these is rosemary, basil, and petitgrain. And those, you know, the rosemary increases circulation to the brain. The basil is a mental stimulant, you know, cerebral stimulant, and not like caffeine or coffee. It makes the brain work
Yeah.
better. And it diminishes, like sometimes when you see like inability to process information, it can be a byproduct of like mental stress. And so then the petitgrain can help with confusion and like being overwhelmed a little bit. And so it's calming to the nerves in the brain. You know, it has some anti-anxiety effects. And so, you know, many years ago, we were doing a combination of those three. And sometimes we were adding grapefruit, but grapefruit can interact with allergy medicines and a couple other medicines. And so I tend not to use the grapefruit. I don't know that it enhanced it enough to offset the impact it would have on those medications. And so I usually just use rosemary, basil, and petitgrain.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
And just one
And
last
you can
thing.
just mix them equal parts. Like you don't even have to get fancy and like you know, just put like, you know, make a little ointment or something and put like, you know, 5-10 drops of each one and then blend it together. And then you could have him inhale it. You could even have him take a drop in some water or, you know, rub it on his body, but definitely have him inhale it out of the body.
Okay. And then the last thing, petitgrain might actually cover this because you said anxiety, but he has some kind of weird fear. He's basically afraid of being alone, which explains why he was on my lap 24 hours a day for the first 3 years of his life. But like he won't do his homework in his room alone. Follows me everywhere.
Okay. Yeah, I would probably use mandarin to treat that. I mean, he's right on the age where you could almost treat him like an adult, but I think I'm going to lean a little bit more to the kid approach. Mandarin might be the thing to do. Even lavender, you can have him take long, slow, deep breaths with lavender because the thing with lavender is it reduces like nervous tension. And some of that can just be, even though he's a little kid, he could just have like nerves.
Yeah.
And so it's a way to calm it down.
Thank you so much.
And the thing with the lavender is lavender for a kid is like big doses of like spikenard or valerian for an adult. Like it's more soothing and sedating to a child than it is to an adult. And think about how it, you know, you get some good lavender, it can be pretty relaxing. It's even more so for a kid. And so usually for children, the two go-to things are lavender and mandarin. And tangerine, even though it smells similar, doesn't quite do the same thing. Like mandarin has a much stronger like antispasmodic property. And part of the spasm is sometimes in the respiratory tract and the digestive tract, which can cause the anxiety. So that can be helpful. Thank you. And then if those aren't working, then the bigger gun for a child is Melissa, but Melissa is pricey. So like I always there is a spray that we do that's makes it inexpensive, but I usually exhaust the lavender mandarin thing way before I go to the Melissa.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, Melissa's very good for, I mean, even Roman chamomile might even be good. Roman chamomile might be good also, like especially if there's tendencies for little like fits or little bouts of hysteria. That could be helpful, but usually when that starts to be an issue, that's when we switch over and do more Melissa.
Okay. Yeah, there's sometimes there's like a homework panic.
Yeah.
He does. And okay.
So I did make a spray, so it reduced the cost to like, instead of, because a little bottle of Melissa's, over $100, but the spray is like $35 or something. So it's a lot of bang for the buck. You could just spray them down. You would get the same benefit without having to do, the big stroke for the 5 ml bottle.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, you're still.
Go ahead, Ralph.
Hey, Ralph.
Hey, so aloes. I was looking at the price list and I'm, almost shell shocked. So there's
and that's
one,
just the ones we have listed. There's some that are so expensive we don't even put them on the site.
don't have to go there, okay? Not right now.
Yeah. I
right.
hear you on that one.
So what I'm looking for is some cost-effective aloes, because I've talked to a couple of people who have just raved about their reaction to it.
Yeah. So
what's
good
a
cost-effective?
Yeah.
Good cost-effective is either aloe C or the aloes attar.
Okay.
A lot of bang for your buck. The more expensive ones are, they use a higher grade wood, and then a lot of times they're aged for long periods of time. And so, that world, that culture of the whole aloe scene can get really, really crazy. And, we spend a lot of time trying to find good sources of some things that we can do on a regular basis, that it's a lot of bang for your buck. And the aloes attar and the aloe C is pretty solid.
Okay.
And so, I'd go that route.
I'll look into that. Thank you.
You're so welcome. We also made smaller amounts available, so you didn't have to do the big stroke for a 5 ml thing. So there's also even like little 2 ml bottles on the site. And I just made, I think we put it on the site, an aloe C salt scrub.
So back to chat just for the next couple minutes that we have.
Mhm.
I've been having short and shallow breathing the last few days. Any recommendation? I've been breathing large, but didn't notice much difference.
Yeah. With that, I'd probably start with, you want to slow down the respiratory rate, which is a lang lang. And then the second thing I usually follow that up with is using anise. And anise starts to balance out the nervous system. You're basically balancing out fight flight with rest and repair. Then I go a little bit deeper with marjoram. And all of these you're just inhaling. You're not even having to follow a pattern. And then the marjoram helps pull you out of fight flight and starts to tone the vagus nerve, which stimulates rest and repair. And then end it with larch or hyssop. But the culmination of the 4 is what will get you there. Yeah, there is like sometimes if there's still like a little bit of something lingering, we acquired this new type of it's a wild basil. It's real inexpensive, but it's they call it like basil, like clove type. And it's one of the best things for taking tension out of the respiratory tract and digestive tract. And so you could put that in between the lang lang and the anise. But those 4 steps that I said, usually pretty solid for the short rapid breathing. Okay, so boy, good session tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed, and we're going to switch over to the angel class. So everybody's invited, but it is a different link. So we're just going to switch over, and I'll see you in just a minute. And love you guys, and I'll hopefully see you this weekend or next week.